Aragua, a Venezuelan gang that has rapidly expanded its reach from the darkest corners of South America into the heart of the United States. What began as a prison gang controlling contraband within the walls of Venezuela's Tocaron prison has morphed into a transnational criminal enterprise. Tren de Aragua now operates with impunity in numerous countries, casting a long shadow over communities from Colombia to Chile, and increasingly, the United States. The gang's tentacles have reached major U.S. cities such as New York, Miami, and Los Angeles. Their presence is felt not through large-scale attacks, but through the insidious grip of fear they hold over vulnerable communities. Extortion, human trafficking, and drug running are their hallmarks, leaving a trail of shattered lives in their wake. Law enforcement agencies are struggling to contain the spread of this ruthless organization. With its decentralized structure and culture of violence, Tren de Aragua presents a unique challenge, one that demands a coordinated international response. The stakes are high, for the future stability and security of the Americas may well hinge on our ability to stop this criminal train in its tracks. To understand the monster, one must first delve into its lair. Tren de Aragua was born not on the streets but within the confines of Tocaron prison in Venezuela. This notorious penitentiary, a microcosm of the country's turmoil, became the breeding ground for what would become one of the most feared criminal organizations in the Americas.
Venezuela's economic collapse in the late 2000s and early 2010s created fertile ground for the growth of organized crime. Poverty, unemployment, and social unrest became rampant, eroding the rule of law and allowing gangs like Tren de Aragua to flourish.
Within the overcrowded and corrupt confines of Tocaron, Tren de Aragua initially established control over the prison's illicit economies. They ran contraband, extortion rackets, and even offered their own brutal brand of justice within the prison walls. However, their ambitions soon outgrew the prison yard. Exploiting the chaos and desperation gripping Venezuela, Tren de Aragua extended their reach beyond the prison walls, capitalizing on the very same factors that had fueled their rise in the first place. The mass exodus of Venezuelans fleeing their country's political and economic turmoil provided Tren de Aragua with both a new pool of recruits and a readily available network for expansion. They infiltrated migrant routes, preying on the desperation of their countrymen seeking a better life.
Human trafficking, particularly of women and children, became a lucrative enterprise for the gang. They exploited the vulnerabilities of migrants, offering false promises of safe passage only to ensnare them in a web of exploitation and abuse.
As Tren de Aragua followed the migrant trails, they established footholds in new territories, expanding their operations throughout South America and eventually reaching the United States. Their arrival in the U.S. marked a new and dangerous chapter in the gang's history, bringing them into the heart of one of the world's most powerful nations. Tren de Aragua operates with a chilling blend of ruthlessness and strategic cunning. Their decentralized structure, with cells operating independently across different regions, makes them incredibly difficult to dismantle. There is no single head to cut off, no central command to target.
Violence is their language, and fear is their most potent weapon. They use it liberally to silence opposition, maintain control over their territories, and ensure the loyalty of their members. Extortion is another key element of their modus operandi. Small businesses, often run by immigrants already fearful of law enforcement, become easy targets for their shakedowns.
This culture of fear and intimidation has a chilling effect on communities. Witnesses are reluctant to come forward, fearing retaliation. Victims often suffer in silence, trapped in a cycle of exploitation and abuse. The gang thrives in the shadows, its power amplified by the fear it instills. The human cost of Tren de Aragua's rise is, well, immeasurable. Across the Americas, communities live under the yoke of their terror.
Small businesses are forced to pay exorbitant taxes to the gang, crippling local economies and pushing families into poverty.
The most vulnerable members of society, women, children, and migrants, are often their primary targets.
Young girls are forced into sexual slavery, their lives forever scarred by the trauma they endure.
Migrants seeking a better future are ensnared in forced labor, their dreams transformed into nightmares.
The constant threat of violence hangs over these communities like a dark cloud.
Parents fear for the safety of their children. Shopkeepers live in dread of the next extortion attempt, and the fabric of society begins to fray under the weight of fear. The rise of Tren de Aragua poses a significant challenge to law enforcement agencies across the Americas. Their decentralized structure, coupled with their use of violence and intimidation, makes them a particularly elusive and dangerous enemy.
Recognizing the transnational nature of the threat, law enforcement agencies are increasingly collaborating across borders to share intelligence, coordinate operations, and dismantle the gang's networks. The United States has partnered with governments in South America to target trafficking routes, disrupt financial flows, and apprehend key members. These efforts have yielded some successes, with significant seizures of drugs and weapons, as well as the arrests of high-ranking gang members. However, the fight is far from over. Tren de Aragua's resilience, adaptability, and deep roots in vulnerable communities make them a persistent and evolving threat.
The U.S. government's response to the Tren de Aragua threat has not been without controversy.
The Biden administration's decision in 2024 to designate the gang as a transnational criminal organization paved the way for more aggressive measures, including the controversial use of Guantanamo Bay to detain suspected members. This move has drawn sharp criticism from human rights groups, who argue that it sets a dangerous precedent and raises serious concerns about due process and the right to a fair trial. The detention of individuals in Guantanamo based on suspected gang affiliation, often with limited evidence, has fueled accusations of racial profiling and overreach. The debate over the Guantanamo detentions underscores the complex challenges of combating transnational criminal organizations. While the need to protect public safety is paramount, it is crucial that such efforts do not come at the expense of human rights and civil liberties.
Predicting the future of Tren de Aragua is a complex task. The gang has proven to be both resilient and adaptable, weathering internal conflicts, law enforcement crackdowns, and even the emergence of rival gangs.
Their ability to exploit weaknesses, adapt to changing circumstances, and instill fear has been key to their survival and expansion. The ongoing economic and political turmoil in Venezuela, coupled with the growing demand for drugs and trafficked persons in other countries, creates a fertile environment for Tren de Aragua to thrive. Unless these root causes are addressed, the gang will likely continue to pose a significant threat to regional stability and security. The international community faces a stark choice: confront Tren de Aragua with a coordinated and multifaceted approach that addresses both the symptoms and the root causes of their rise, or risk allowing them to expand their reign of terror across the Americas.
The chilling rise of Tren de Aragua is a stark reminder that the scourge of organized crime knows no borders. It is a transnational threat that demands a transnational response, one that is comprehensive, collaborative, and unwavering in its commitment to dismantling this criminal enterprise and bringing its perpetrators to justice. This is not just a matter for law enforcement agencies. It requires a whole-of-society approach. Governments, international organizations, civil society groups, and citizens must work together to address the root causes of this crisis: poverty, inequality, corruption, and lack of opportunity that allow gangs like Tren de Aragua to flourish. We must stand united in our resolve to protect the vulnerable, uphold the rule of law, and create a future where criminal organizations like Tren de Aragua are relegated to the dustbin of history. The fight may be long and arduous, but the stakes are too high to fail. The future of our communities, our countries, and our hemisphere depends on it.